Hey everyone, Azim here. We're going to go over the different sutures and fontanelles found on human skulls. If we're talking about fontanelles first, fontanelles are only found on fetal skulls and infant skulls. It's because their bones haven't fully ossified yet. These flat bones, these major bones of the cranium, they are flat bones, meaning they undergo intramembranous ossification. I mean, obviously they're flatter. I know there's a bit of curvature here, but they're flatter. But they undergo intramembranous ossification. So in a fetal skull like this, intramembranous ossification hasn't completed yet, which is why on a baby, if you gently feel their heads, you can feel some soft spots. Those are the fontanelles where the ossification has not fully taken place. So those soft spots, there are several of them, and they each have names based on their locations. This largest one here, this is the Anterior Fontanelle. The Anterior Fontanelle is at the intersection between, this is the Frontal Suture, this is the Sagittal Suture. It's cutting it in half left to right. So the Frontal and Sagittal Suture, as well as the Coronal Suture. So again, Anterior Fontanelle is at the intersection between the Frontal Suture and Sagittal Suture and the Coronal Suture. In the back, keep following the Sagittal Suture to the back, we have another fontanelle right here on the posterior side. This is the Posterior Fontanelle. And so this is at the junction between the Sagittal Suture, and this is called the Lambdoid Suture. If you're familiar with the Greek letter lambda, or if you've played Half-Life, then you've seen something that looks like a lambda, and this is that lambda shape. So this is the Lambdoid Suture, Sagittal Suture, Posterior Fontanelle. On either side, so we could be on the left side or the right side, we're looking at the left side right now. On either side we've got, here's the Coronal Suture, and this suture is called the squamous suture. Squamous means flat, and so here's the flat part of the temporal side. This fontanelle is called the Sphenoidal Fontanelle. The sphenoid bone is near here. So this is the Sphenoidal Fontanelle at the intersection of the Coronal Suture and the squamous suture. Follow the squamous suture posteriorly and see how it intersects with this Lambdoid Suture on either side. So once again, Sphenoidal Suture, Lambdoid Suture. We've got another soft spot, another fontanelle. This is the Mastoid Fontanel. This part of the back of your, right behind the ear, this bumpy part, it's breast-shaped. That's what mastoid means. It's breast-like. It's just this roundish bump right here. That's a mastoid fontanelle. Or mastoid area, here's a mastoid fontanelle. Looking at that in a adult human skull, here you can see the Frontal Suture. The Frontal Suture is unlike the other sutures. The Frontal Suture on the anterior side here, it fuses together as bone to bone. So the frontal bone is just one bone. This is a synostosis joint. It's just bone fusing to bone. The Frontal Suture. The Coronal Suture is what separates the frontal bone from the parietal bones. There are ligaments on this suture. So once again, this Coronal Suture differs from the Frontal Suture. This is bone to bone. There are sutural ligaments here in this Coronal Suture. Here's that sphenoidal suture, squamous suture going along the temporal side, separating the parietal bone from the temporal bone. Here's that sagittal suture. Again, there are ligaments here separating the parietal bones, left and right. Going to the back, we can see our Lambdoid Suture, and that's separating the occipital bone from the parietal bones as well as the temporal bone. Once again, the Frontal Suture, that's a synostosis. These other sutures, the rest of the sutures, have ligaments in between them, so those are actual or classified as sutural joints.